Good morning and welcome to Decorah UU. We are a welcoming, lay-led spiritual community moving together in time in an open search for truth and meaning. We believe in people's inherent capacity to lead ethical lives of personal fulfillment, pursuing the good of humanity. We welcome you all this morning in our virtual fellowship. We're delighted that you've joined us, and we hope that you'll allow the threshold this morning as we try a brand new thing to be decidedly low. Assuming that you can hear me and that you can see me, we're going to make the assumption that you are online and you're with us. After the service is over, if you want to report on problems or you have comments on how it went, please forward those to Otter. And Otter will consult with Carolyn Corbin to troubleshoot what we can for the future. Finally, I'd like to give a huge shout out to Carolyn Corbin and to Otter Dreaming for making this possible. I will tell you in all honesty, earlier in the week, myself, I thought, I don't think this is a good idea and I don't think I can really do it. And Carolyn in particular nudged me and said, Nancy, this is something we want to try to keep our presence with one another together. And I think she was absolutely right. And I'm thrilled to see so many people here this morning. And I hope we can have a good hour of fellowship together. I am going to ask if anyone has an announcement, even though that may be asking for trouble. But if anyone does have an announcement, please raise your hand. And Carolyn can unmute your microphone. Seeing none, I'll proceed with the service. Our principle this morning, today's service relates to principle number 6, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Now, there are words for the chalice lighting that I'm going to project on the screen as I share it. I hope that that comes through. Are you seeing it? Someone give me a thumbs up if you're seeing opening. The chalice lighting, stars in the pew. Can everyone see that? Give me a thumbs up.
I think maybe
Great.
Mike could.
Okay. Allow me to light the candle. Allow me to light the candle in my living room here. And then when I read the words of the chalice lighting, please make sure you're muted because it would be too much audio feedback for all of us to try and say this together. But please do feel free to read the words of the chalice lighting to yourself in your home. Each of the stars in the heavens is unique and individual, yet together they form the night sky. Each of us here is unique and individual, yet together we are a congregation. Each of our congregations is unique and individual, yet together we are an association. For the stars in the sky, for people in the pews, for members of our association, in gratitude, we light this chalice. Now I'm going to play our opening song, which is a folk song by Pete Morton, one of my favorite folk singers, and it's called 6 Billion Eccentrics.
I know you're the best thing since sliced bread. But you're one slice short of a loaf. You're a biscuit short of a packet, mate. You're a farthing short of a groat. You're one wheel short of a wagon. That's a wagon short of a train. You're a segment short of a tangerine. In fact, you're a little bit strange. 6 billion eccentrics wander the earth to be right found in laddie. 6 billion eccentrics wander the earth to be right found in laddie. Cause you 1 page short of a newspaper, you're 2 steps short of a stand. You're a coat hanger short of a full wardrobe, and you're 1 leg short of a chair. You're 1 bush short of a hedgerow, that's 1 wall short of a room. You're 1 spoke short of a bicycle wheel. You're 1 note short of a tune. 6 billion eccentrics wander the earth to be right found in laddie. 6 billion eccentrics wander the earth to be right found in laddie. Oh, you're odd, you are. You're really weird. You ought to grow a big long beard. Wait through the gadgets singing songs about this world and all its wrongs, and why we ought to love each other, and how to never get caught by Big Brother, whether you died in Louisiana or out on the African plains. Because you're 1 feather short of a headdress. You're a zebra short of a zoo. You're 1 stitch short of a cricket ball. You're 1 bow short of a shoe. You're 1 stone short of an ancient place. That's 1 seat short of a bus. You're 1 chili short of a doner kebab, which makes you a bit like us. 6 billion eccentrics wander the earth to be right found in laddie. 6 billion eccentrics wander the earth to be right found in laddie. Oh, you're odd, you are. You're really weird. You ought to grow a big long beard. Walk to Jerusalem singing songs about this world and all its wrongs, and why we ought to love each other, and how to never get caught by Big Brother, whether you died in Louisiana or working on the Shanghai trains. Because you're 1 grape short of a glass of wine, you're 1 short of a crate. You're a sandwich short of a picnic, you're 1 minute short of a break. You're 1 egg short of a dozen, that's 1 street short of this town. You're 1 pip short of the juiciest apple, but never let that get you down. 6 billion eccentrics wander the earth to be right while little laddie. 6 little laddie. 6 billion eccentrics wander the earth while little laddie. 6 billion eccentrics wander the earth to be right while little laddie. You're the best thing since sliced bread.
Okay, I hope that came through all right. Now I'm a little confused where I am. Carolyn, am I showing the program, or am I showing myself? Am I
program?
Okay, so let me stop sharing and go back to me. Okay, that should be good. I'm going to continue with a reading by Marilyn Marcial, and it's called Clothesline. Now, again, I probably should share the screen with this, so let me share the screen and we'll do Microsoft Bulletin here. Okay, I hope all of you are seeing this poem called Clothesline by Marilyn Maciel. I, you, us, them, those people. Wouldn't it be lovely if one could live in a constant state of we? Some of the most commonplace words can be some of the biggest dividers. They? What if there was no they? What if there was only us? If words could be seen as they floated out of our mouths, would we feel no shame as they passed beyond our lips? If we were to string our words on a communal clothesline, would we feel proud as our thoughts flapped in the breeze? Okay, that was a reading by Marilyn Maciel to help us contemplate this morning's theme of unity and diversity. Now, this is the time in our service where we invite anyone who wishes to step forward, light a candle from the central virtual chalice, and share with us a personal concern or milestone joy in your life. Now, what we'll do is have those of you who would like to do a joy concern signal with your hand that you'd like to, and we'll make sure that your microphone is unmuted. And I think I'm going to just go get a candle.
While she's getting the candle, I wanted to note how you can virtually raise your hand, which is if you click on participants, then there is a raise hand button that you can click. And Carolyn, will you be monitoring who's raised their hand? So,
yep, I will help. And
okay.
Otter and I are both spotters.
Awesome, thanks.
Yes, and I'll help too.
Is there anyone who has a joy or concern?
We could unmute Shirley.
Shirley, you're now unmuted.
Okay. Today is Ruth Jenkins' birthday. I don't see her on here, and I can't remember. I think she's turning 54 today. So happy birthday to my sister Ruth this morning. Thanks.
Happy birthday candles for Ruth. Anyone else? Matthew, I can't tell whether you're trying to raise your hand. I don't think so. Is there anyone else who has a
quite a few? There's Craig.
Okay.
We could unmute Craig Mosher.
You can unmute yourself if you want to. If you want to click your unmute button, Craig.
But thank you for waiting to be recognized before you unmute.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned earlier, I just think this is amazing that we can do this and that Marcia and I can be part of this service. I'm excited about hearing Nancy's words and seeing all of you and thinking that COVID has brought some advantages as well as all the struggle, right? And we're going to start a list here and ask everybody to contribute of things that have happened because of COVID that are good. Check. That's our way of saying I'm done.
Thank you.
Ellen McDonald, can you unmute?
Thank you. I have one that's just the same as without Corona. I'd be asking us all to think about Paul Johnson, who's home from the hospital for the first time in many, many weeks without the support that they had before. So Pat is there. Her brother, who's a physician from the cities, has been there but needs to be going home. They have some rental equipment that will help. But it's just overwhelming to think of their extreme situation in the time of this virus. And then I'm sure many of us have many people that we're very worried about. I finally started making a list because it helped me keep in mind, and I'm not going to share my whole list, but the one that wakes me up in the night and keeps me from going back to sleep is my friend Heidi Olstead, who's driving a hometown taxi. And for her and all the hometown taxi heroes, I worry a lot. A Prius is a pretty confined space. Thank you. It's a thrill to see all of you.
I think Sue had her hand up.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your participation this morning. It is so good to see you all. Am I coming through?
Yes.
Okay. I had a couple of things. First, it was just Saturday that was the 100th anniversary of my father's birth. And I was thinking of him and how he would be reacting to all of this. And knowing him, even though he was older in these last days when I was with him, he was always trying to help people, always out there thinking what he could do instead of realizing that he was the one that needed to be helped. So I think that's one thing we can all bear in mind. We can help others, and we also may need help. So I hope people will not be afraid to reach out when they need something, and will also be willing to offer what they can. And there are many things that are coming up that are in need. For example, Brenda Burke, who is a nurse midwife, has asked people if they could help make masks because they're going to be delivering babies, and it might require many, many hours, and they have to change these masks. And it's sad that we're not up to speed on delivering some of these medical things, but there are many ways that we can help, and let's just be aware of that. Let us be helpers and also be willing to be helped when we need it. Thanks.
I see Bill Pardee has his hand up. Bill, do you want to unmute?
Well, we feel really a lot of joy at the way our community, not just the fellowship, but our broader community, has come together in response to the danger, seems to be complying. The wonderful work of our co-op to create a safe way for deliveries and help with friends like Julie Odie to help us stay safe.
Thank you.
Who else has a hand up that we didn't see? Wave your hand wildly if I can't see any more hands, but I have a joy. My dad, my sweet dad, is turning 80 on Wednesday, March 25th. And what can I say? Most grounded guy I know.
Happy birthday, Paul.
You may want to give people who are joining only by phone a chance to chime in, since they can't wave their hands on video or in the chat.
I'm seeing the chat here. Hold on. No, I think we're okay there. Is there anyone else who has a joy or a concern? Hearing none, I would like to resume our moment of silence. We will observe this together. Collectively, we will all breathe in the air of our particular spaces as we observe a moment of silence for all of the joys and concerns that people have spoken aloud here and that live inside our own hearts. So quiet on the screen for a minute.
If you ever want to talk,
Oh, if I ever want to talk. Thank you, Otter. Thank you all. Now, it's impossible for us to do a shared offertory this morning, but I would like to say just a few words about this. The time of our offering is always where we celebrate the fellowship's commitment and outreach to our community as we support worthy organizations. This month's recipient, for those of you who would want to make a separate contribution through the mail, would be the North NAMI. Is that right, Otter?
yes,
Okay.
NAMI Northeast Iowa. Yep.
NAMI Northeast Iowa. So I will also remind all of us as we're trying to move forward in this virtual community, practicing as best we can the social distancing that's happening, that we remember to stay in touch with the fellowship, that we remember to stay in touch with all of our neighbors in need, that we reach out to those who may need our help. I know Beth is working on sending out covenant renewal forms, and so please pay attention when you get that form in the mail to respond to our annual covenant renewal. So thank you for your virtual offerings. We are a strong community. We look out for one another, and we will continue to do so. Now, thank you, Otter. I'm going to begin. I am the speaker this morning, and I have a sermon that I've prepared, but I'd like to begin with a reading first, and I'll flash this on the screen so you can follow along with me. This reading goes, Spirit of life in us and around us, here is our chance once again to live like we wish the world would live. May we find within ourselves the courage to be who we are. May we know time to listen and when it is time to speak. May we trust ourselves to be the one to find the words that need to be said or to do what needs to be done. May we trust one another and know there are ways to go through, many ways to go through life. May we know that though we cannot change some of what life gives to us, we can choose how we deal with what we are given. We are coming into our power, and together we can make possible justice and love. We are all connected. We depend upon one another more than we know. We are one body. Okay, so let me give to you a few words on the theme of unity and diversity. What can I possibly say during this sermon? I don't know about any of you, but I can say that for me, this feels like a very weird experience. It feels weird because I'm staring at a computer screen rather than seeing everyone perched in their chairs at the Lingonberry. It feels weird because I have no idea if people are listening or if they're staring at their own computer screens or sitting in their pajamas, having coffee, doing whatever. Partly it feels weird because I know this is a necessary choice for our health. This social distancing, this isolation, this shelter in place. This watch out you don't get too close to anyone's sphere we're all living in now. Beware your neighbor. Oh no, that's not right. Take care that your neighbor is in good and healthy space. Well, what kind of a space is this? My theme for today was unity and diversity. And in a way, there's nothing better than an old-fashioned virus to get us to realize exactly how unified our human chain is. We have a body. It is susceptible to being invaded by germs. Our immune system handles that or it doesn't. Guns, germs, and steel, the writer Jared Diamond proclaimed in 1997, these are the forces that shape human societies. Well, we've reached the age of steel, and we have more than enough guns available on the planet. But who would have thought the lowly germ would bring the 21st century to its knees? In doing so, it convinces us of the most basic experience we share, a mortal body that is not impervious to chance, to random occurrences, to the depth and breadth we call the natural order of things, to create chaos into our lives and into our bodies. If ever there was a way to understand how small the globe has become, it's with this virus making its way around the world. Of course, we want to make it the subject of dissection and difference. The virus originated in China. The virus has wreaked havoc in Italy. Winneshiek County has a lowly case. The virus could care less about maps, about boundaries, about political divisions. The virus wants only an immune system to penetrate. The virus wants only to live and do what viruses do. It is part and parcel of the genetic diversity we live in and among. In 2001, when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I had to face the bewildering paradox that the cancer cells going rogue inside my body were themselves a sign of life. And then, during those awful months of chemotherapy, each time the nurse would insert the needle and start pumping those toxins, these powerful drugs that had been designed to kill the cancer cells, all I could think was, these drugs are killing the cancer. These drugs are keeping me alive. This paradox that death and life are inextricably bound up together is like the paradox we must embrace as we contemplate our diverse planet, our diverse neighbors, our diverse minds. Well, how do we handle that paradox? I mean, how do we make sense of it in a way to keep it from becoming a platitude about how we all must find unity in the midst of diversity? Well, one possible answer is that we humble ourselves to the age-old reality that being average is a comforting thing. The word average has taken on a bad rap in the last 50 years, as if it's a problem to overcome. Just like the word diversity, something to be fixed, something to be solved, something to inculcate. We don't need to fix or solve anything to understand how diverse the world is. 6 billion eccentrics is how the songwriter Pete Morton put it. 6 billion eccentrics wander the earth. And no matter how odd or peculiar any one of them may seem, that randomness makes that person a little bit like us, one of the 6 billion eccentrics. I don't know when it was I began to think of myself as an average person and to take comfort in it. It might have been in my old running days when I used to run 3 miles a day. It's hard to believe that now when you look at me, but there was a time in my life when I ran 3 miles a day. And I would, once or twice a year, participate in a 5K run. Inevitably, even on those run days when I thought I was really putting it out there with my stride, I would get the results and I would be right smack dab in the middle of the times for women in my age group. Half were faster, half were slower. Forget that I wanted to be the best in my class. The timer wasn't lying. It was telling me some people in the race were faster and some were slower, and there was nothing extraordinary about my time. We all had different and unique times as we ran the race, and together we made a lovely unified throng running through the streets of Iowa City. But my pursuit of the goal was not record-breaking or distinctive in any way, to which I eventually came to find great peace and realize that is perfectly okay. I'm reminded of something I read in the New York Times once, which was about parents causing the guidance counselor at their high school in utter dismay after they had received their son's statistical rankings on a national test. And the parents were just out of sorts because what they could only say was, well, I knew Johnny wasn't in the top half of his class, but I never imagined for a second he'd be in the bottom half. So this notion that we all want to live somewhere in the top half of a sphere in which we're all pretty much residing in the middle is something that I think is worth our coming to terms with in our own mind. Once I read a survey that said 90% of people responding to a survey question on how well they got along with other people, 90% of the people said they have an above average ability to get along with other people. And I said to my friend, well, that shows how everyone wants to be the hero of their own story, everyone else's best friend. No, my friend commented, that shows you how out of whack everyone's definition of average is. So one way to admit that we are part of a diverse, magisterial breadth of human experience is to recognize that our individual ego doesn't have to float to the top of the barrel all the time. Here is how E.M. Forster put it. This is his words, E.M. Forster, the British novelist in the early 20th century. I believe in aristocracy, though if that is the right word, and if a Democrat may use it, not an aristocracy of power based on rank and influence, but an aristocracy of the sensitive, the considerate, and the plucky. Its members are to be found in all nations and classes, and all through the ages. And there is a secret understanding between them when they meet. They represent the true human tradition, the one permanent victory of our queer race over cruelty and chaos. Thousands of them perish in obscurity. A few are great names. They are sensitive for others as well as themselves. They are considerate without being fussy. Their pluck is not swankiness, but power to endure, and they can take a joke. People who can take a joke about themselves are an especially helpful rank in this condition we call the human condition. Sensitive for others as well as ourselves, the power to endure, the power to be gracious to others we meet, no matter how eccentric or obnoxious we may find them. One of my most central transcendent images in my life has been of the airport in Johannesburg, South Africa. I flew there many years ago to go on a trip with Martin Clammer and students, and we had to wait for our bags to be delivered. And as a result of that, I found a perch on the second level of the airport. And what I saw mystified me and was one of the truly great experiences I have ever had of diversity in this world. I saw people from all over the world. What a marvel it was. Part of me was almost transfixed by it. Such a magnificent sight. All ages, races, costumes, dress, athletes and overweight people, tall and short, young and old. All of us holding on to this tiny or vast suitcase. Or was it that the suitcases just looked tiny all of a sudden? And then I had almost a kind of modern joke about it. Here I am with all my stuff. Be careful not to mix up my stuff with your stuff. Let's all keep our stuff separate. For just a moment, my mind flashed on the idea of somehow stripping everyone of their individual suitcases and mixing them all up. The woman from what looked like China getting the soccer player's bag, and vice versa. My special books landing in the hands of that man from Tanzania. I thrilled in the idea of it. Traveling as the great leveler, the thing that truly mixes it up for us and makes it so we are never quite sure where the boundary between ourselves and other human beings really lies. But that's a fantasy, of course, because now in 2020, we are in fact mixing it up through the chaos of this virus, and we're not happy about that conclusion. Who wants to be as vulnerable as the next person? I mean, who are you to tell me that eventually I'm going to die? I mean, that couldn't be the one thing we all have in common, could it? We're going to die? Is that what it means to be like every other person on the planet? Is that the wound that unifies us all? I'm choosing to end this service this morning with a song that seems to suggest the solace we can all feel at that realization. It's called Sand and Water, and it was written and sung by Beth Nielsen Chapman. It's a song about what happens when we all walk through the grave and see those who we love. It's a song about infinity, about sand and water and a million years gone by. I hope when you hear it, it offers you some hope in this delicate, weary, worrisome time. I hope it reminds us that underneath our eccentricities and our ego-driven drive to say, mine, 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 we might remember we are part of an intricate network, a fragile aristocracy of the plucky, a people susceptible to illness, a people on the long and winding and wayward journey we call life. Thank you. Well, before I play the song and extinguish the chalice, we do have a few minutes. Do we dare to ask for any comments from people? Carolyn, do you think that that's inviting chaos? What do you think?
How about let's close our service? It's so beautiful. Nicely done, Nancy. And then I'll stay on afterwards and we can talk about if there's any hiccups or improvements to be made.
I think that sounds fabulous. So I'm going to play the closing song and then extinguish the chalice. Once again, this is Sand and Water by Beth Nielsen Chapman. Oh, let's see here. Thank you all for your patience in this service. Let us extinguish the chalice with the words. Say them as you will at home, along with spirit of life and love, known by many names and yet fully known by none. We give thanks for this time and this place of renewal. We give thanks for the ability to begin again after the disaster, after the tragedy, after the loss, after meeting the challenge set before us. Grant us the courage to continue on the journey, the courage to speak up for the well-being of others and ourselves and the planet. May we forgive each other when our courage falls short, and may we try again. Grant us hearts to love boldly, to embody our faith and our value in living words and deeds. May our hearts open to embrace humility, grace, and reconciliation among 6 billion eccentrics. I'm going to extinguish the chalice now. Thank you all for what has been a thrilling virtual service. Thank you for the hand waves from people whose audio is off. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Carolyn, what should we do?
So I see people raising their hands. So this can, if you have any special off the script concerns, especially logistics about how to do this better, you can email them directly to Otter if you got to get going, or you can stay on and we'll just keep talking about stuff like this. So I'm going to recognize Stephen Grove. You want to unmute yourself?
Thanks. I'm wonderfully impressed with the service, and I want to thank Nancy. I guess the problem of always will be how we hear music. And I'm wondering if that can be a bit disconcerting. I'm glad we were able to hear most of the words. I don't know if there's any way to improve that. And I'll pass.
Hey, Karen, are you on? Because maybe Karen knows if there are music strategies. Or maybe Karen had to.
Hi, I'm still here. Well, I was wondering, I wasn't able to see, Nancy, were you sharing it from your computer or were you playing it using a CD player or another device?
I was playing it from my computer, and that was the one thing we did not test. I have to be honest and say we did not test this in our pre things.
That's fine. I was going to say, I mean, the best possible way is actually via computer, but we are going to encounter delays, and it depends on your connection speed. So some people to hear it without any problem at all, and some people it's going to be a little jagged in a way that is much more obvious with music than it is with speaking. Our brains can fill in the spaces between words or expect pauses when we hear somebody talk. When we listen to music, we're expecting a continuity of sound. That isn't always going to happen depending on our internet connection speeds. And there's not much that we can do about that other than, you know, push Decora to have fiber optic and have everybody on.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I appreciated the selection of songs, by the way. Thank you.
It did occur to me that if I had time, I should have typed up the lyrics so that I could present the lyrics on screen while the songs were playing. So I apologize, I just didn't have time to do that.
Ellen, is your hand raised? Do you want to just unmute yourself?
Hi, yes. Just a thought, which is that, first of all, let me just say I was so moved by this service. Beautiful job, Nancy, and just beautiful. And a thought is that very often online, the lyrics will be there and it's just a copy and paste. And I can imagine that being a really helpful thing for people who don't have high speed. I didn't have a problem hearing the songs, but I did turn up the volume on my phone for the music. So the volumes were a little lower than your voice was. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much, all of you that have been involved in making this happen. And blessings, everyone.
Blessings, blessings to everyone. Thumbs up for a mutual blessing among us all.
I will say we're going to be looking for ways that we can use this Zoom feature to facilitate all kinds of social meetups. If you're feeling like, gee, I wish there were a sci-fi book club among us, you can be the host for that. I don't have the link to send you right now because I haven't. Karen Estrel is going to teach me how to do stuff and teach Otter, and we're going to get better at this. So if there's a special group that you'd like, keep it in mind, and we can set up subgroups easy as soon as we learn how.
Great. Anything else from anyone here?
Oh, Ellen McDonald has her hand raised. Ellen, do you want to?
I had a question for Otter about the emails that went out last week. Is this, if I get an email from you that says UU group or something like that, and I hit reply, does it go to the whole membership?
It does not. And this is something we'll talk about at the next board meeting about direct use through our email list. We just need to talk about that. But if you reply and there's something that you want to share, I do my best to forward individuals' notes to the whole fellowship at this point, and we'll consider, you know, what a next step might be with that. And I've got your email, and I've forwarded it to the board and some other things to the whole fellowship. So we'll keep doing that for now.
Thank you. I think
the board is meeting in a couple days, so we'll talk about all of
it. I think I had never looked at the header on your emails very often, so I didn't know what it meant. Thank you, and congratulations to Carolyn and Nancy and Karen and everyone. This is very meaningful for me.
Craig Mosier, can you unmute yourself, and can you do me a favor and reintroduce your wife?
Of course. This is Marcia Mosier, and we got married last spring, as many of you know, and we are loving living in community in Iowa City at Prairie Hill, where we are thinking about how do we shelter in place as a community, not just as a household. And what would that mean? And so we're trying to find some solutions as a group, which is really kind of interesting and very much like what's happening in Decorah with all of you. So anyway, I just had a couple of comments. One, it might help to next time to be able to have the chalice on the screen with the speaker rather than back behind her. I don't know if there's a way to do that, to just set the camera up to make that work. I had difficulty reading the program when it was shared on screen. I hadn't printed it out. So maybe there could be a larger font version for that or something to make it easier to read. The other thing is, we did this a week or so ago with the UU Fellowship here in Iowa City, and had 100 people on Zoom doing this. One of the things that they did was that they turned off the video for everybody, so we didn't see each other's images during the service. And I don't know if that makes a difference in terms of how it handles the bandwidth and all that or not. But I thought, gee, doing it this way, I thought it's really fun watching everybody's reactions to what Nancy was saying and stuff. So it's nice having the images if we can make that work. So, pass.
Karen, is your hand raised? It looks
yes,
like
it is. So I wanted to note that I did post today's bulletin also on our website, and my hope is that we can continue to do that moving forward so that we have a centralized place. People don't have to go looking in their emails, and they can also adjust the Zoom size, et cetera, that they need to be able to see it. So I'm going to be talking through those logistics with Carolyn Otter and Julie Odie, our webmaster. I don't think that sharing our video actually does have a negative impact on bandwidth. So I think that it's helpful for us to continue to share because I do think, especially during things like joys and sorrows, that it's really nice to be able to see one another. If you do want to focus only on the speaker and not on everybody, if you hover your cursor over them, you'll see that there's an option to pin a video, and you can make sure that that person is always like your primary focus. Other people will pop up when they're speaking, but otherwise will not be visible all the time. There are a lot of different ways that you can interact with Zoom, but just want to note that too.
Shirley, is your hand up? Can you unmute yourself? And
Yeah, I just, next time I'll remember to bring Kleenex with me to church, because that song really, really got to my heart, Nancy. Thank you. And
You're
it's
welcome.
so neat to see everybody's, gosh, here I go again. It's so good to see everybody's faces. I haven't been out since Wednesday, and it's the 11th, March 11th, when I got sick. And it's so nice to see everybody. So thank you all. We played cards with friends virtually last night with the same program. It was really funny to be playing cards on the computer, but it's how we connect. So thank you all. Love you all.
Yes, thank you, Shirley.
Greg, did you have something else? Go
There
ahead.
you go. Okay. I think Carolyn, didn't you record this so that we could share it with people if we want to? Can you tell us how to do that?
I can't tell you how to do it, but it is recorded. So I'll be figuring that out and sending the recorded link.
Carolyn, did you choose to record to the cloud or did you save a local recording?
To the cloud.
Okay, great. So it'll be really easy. After the recording uploads to the cloud, Carolyn will get a notice that it is finished uploading. It's not going to be instantaneous because Zoom requires some time for processing, especially since it adds closed captioning. So when she does get it, she'll get the link and then we can share that on our website, Facebook, and an email.
I think I would like to just say again, a huge thank you to the board, to Carolyn, to Otter, to Karen, to everyone who nudged me towards this. I had a total push-pull reaction to it all week long. Should I do it? No. Should I do it? Yes. I just didn't know that it would have the positive effect that it has, as Shirley has so articulated. And it is lovely to see everyone's face. And I'm so happy. I'm very pleased and humbled by my role in this. And I'm grateful to all of you for being willing to put up with the newness of this environment for us to share our fellowship, which is very dear to me. So thank you all very much. Should we sign off now, Carolyn? Okay, saying goodbye to you from the UU Fellowship in Decorah, Iowa. We'll see you next week.